that no one's on their speaker, and that no earbud, no earbuds, no headphones. Okay, because that distorts the sound.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to
Thank
pass
you.
things on right now.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Can I hear something? Okay, very good.
Hi, Reverend Vicky Johnson should be patched through right now, and I'm calling up Facebook to check your list.
Perfect. Pastor Johnson? Hello? Hello?
Good morning.
Hi, how are you?
Good morning. Can you hear me, Candy?
Now I can.
Well, how are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, just give me one hot second. Okay.
Hi, can I hear Reverend Vicky Johnson talk a little bit, please? Good morning, and God bless you. This is the day that the Lord has made. We are rejoicing and are exceedingly glad in it. Glad to be a part of this programming for today.
All right.
All right. Sounds pretty good from where I'm at.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much.
I need to check real quick. I think we have about 5 minutes till the start of the show, but let me double check that real quick.
Okay. Are we coming up at 6:08 or 6:07?
Yeah, it should be 6:08.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Okay, all right. Looks like we...
Okay, can you hear?
Let me add some time real quick because
Okay.
the portions I added didn't add for some reason.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay.
They've helped provide over 6 million meals to people in need each year.
Okay. There's that.
Learn more at feedingamerica.org. This is Ricky Rubio. And I'm Holly Robinson Peete, actor and along with Ricky, ambassador for delivering jobs. We know that a job is empowering and instills confidence. Yet 81% of adults with developmental differences don't have a paid job, even though companies that employ people with differences report better morale and higher productivity. There are 6.5 million people in the U.S. with an intellectual or developmental difference such as autism. And now, thanks to Autism Speak, Buddies, the Hollywood Foundation, and Special Olympics, there has never been more opportunity to improve hiring practices and build a more inclusive workforce. Join me, Ricky Rubio, and these amazing organizations in supporting and creating pathways to 1 million employment and leadership opportunities for the talented community.
Can you do me a favor? Well, no, never mind. Okay.
Hi, I'm Marcel Street. 2 minutes.
Okay.
It's a tough job. One made just a bit safer with the help of America's brave military dogs. These dogs will often take the same risks and make the same sacrifices as our human warriors, keep our troops safe by sniffing out bombs and IEDs, locating enemy positions, and bringing a sense of comfort and home in almost unimaginable circumstances. Yet, when these brave K9 heroes retire, they're not always given the same treatment as our military VIPs, and are too often left overseas. American Humane works to bring home these valiant dogs and reunite them with the people who need the most of them, their handlers, so they can enjoy happy, healthy, well-deserved retirement. To learn how you can help America's four-footed heroes, visit American.
Okay. I will call.
I just talked to that I am one to do every once in a while over the weekend, and they brought me in, and it was going to be like 5 minutes to talk about news of the day. Turned into like a 20-minute segment on the balloon. I'm just being like attacked by everybody there. On Fox, they literally were like, but people can turn to the sky and see it, and don't you think that people are going to be focused on this? What does this say? What are the political thoughts? Here's around 30 seconds.
Okay.
Number of people rounded to a whole number who will make their decision in November of 2024 whether or not to vote for President Biden based on the Chinese balloon. Expressed as that whole number is 0. Okay? Everyone wants to say who's on the Republican side, this is embarrassing for the Biden administration. It's so embarrassing. Can't this happen? It's so embarrassing. It's not embarrassing for us. It's embarrassing for China. Because the rule of surveillance is that you don't get caught. Don't get caught. And they got caught. Listening to WCPT 20 because facts matter. WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show on WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. Let us talk about the mayor's race and all of these aldermanic races and the police council races from yesterday. I want you to call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Did you vote yesterday? We broke records with early voting, with mail-in voting, all of that. They said it was a little sluggish at the polls yesterday, but really, wow, what a day, what a night. And thank you all for tuning into WCPT. It was wonderful hearing from everybody. It was wonderful working with Joan Esposito and Patty Vasquez last night and getting reunited with my girl, Bedalia, and Matt Cummings. Sending you all so much love today. We were there just listening to all of these speeches, and we now know who will be in the runoff. It will be Commissioner Brandon Johnson and former CPS CEO Paul Vallis. So tell me, what do you think about that? And what kind of race do you think this is going to be? Some people are saying this is going to be a battle royale. What do you think? Call me at 773-763-9278. Then Renee said she's already been out there. Good morning, Kevin Brooks and Robert Williams and Minister Leon Wright, Colonel, sending you much love. Joyce, sending you all so much love. Francis, always giving so much love to our mayors and to Congressman Jonathan Jackson. Robert Williams, shalom to you, my dear brother. And sending everybody much love. Hey, Joyce, sending you all much love. Shirley from beautiful Philadelphia. Nicole, look, this is a race that everybody was looking at. Liberty Temple, how you doing? Sending you much love out there. Kenneth Rush. Everybody, please join us over on my YouTube channel, the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, and the Santita Jackson and Friends page. When I voted yesterday, people said, I'm your friend, and they were on the Santita Jackson page, but it was the landing page. Oh. In order to be my friend, in order to not get kicked off by Facebook, because I'm not doing that, please go to Santita Jackson and Friends and spread the word. That is my page. That's the page where I interact. Okay, so please. And you'll see a picture of me and my daddy voting yesterday. Yeah, we went on out and voted, and thank everybody, the whole team down there. They were so gracious to us, sending all of the judges and all of the people down there on Clark and Lake so much love today. So let's get right to it, everybody. Let's get right to it. In Chicago, we're going to have a high of 53 degrees today. It will be partly cloudy. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 35 degrees. They will have snow. In the NBA, the Raptors 104, the Bulls 98, the Timberwolves 108, the Clippers 101. An era ended yesterday in Chicago. Patrick Kane was traded to the New York Rangers. Wow, what a wonderful opportunity, but we will miss him, everybody. A 3-team trade in the NHL. An era has ended, and the Coyotes bested Chicago last night 4-1, and the Wild bested the Islanders 2-1, everybody. It will be Chicago, the mayoral race that everybody was waiting for. Vallis versus Johnson. Who you got in this race, everybody? And I want to hear from everyone, because a lot of people feel all kinds of ways about this race, and we've got a tremendous panel that will be switching out every 30 minutes to talk to people to get their impressions. Dr. Michael Beyer is going to help us to understand how we got a former head of the public schools and a union leader who've really been on opposite sides in the fight. Well, not in the fight to educate our children, but how to go about it. How about putting it that way? So call me, text me at 773-763-9278, 773-763 WCPT. I want to hear from you. I want to know what your thoughts are. I want to know who you have in this race. Who do you have in this race? At least 2 commercial flights this week have made unscheduled loops in the sky to give passengers a view of the northern lights. Good news. At least 36 people were killed in a train collision Tuesday night in Tempe in central Greece. The Greek fire service said a passenger train was carrying more than 350 people when it collided with a freight train. Praying for all of those souls over there. Scientists say tests in East Palestine, Ohio, show unusually high levels of some chemicals in the aftermath of a toxic train wreck, the toxic train wreck from the beginning of the month. 9 of the dozens of chemicals that the EPA has been monitoring are higher than would be normally found in the area, everybody. And the Chicago mayor's race, everybody's talking about it. They opened up with all of the newscasts talking about the Vallis-Johnson-Vallis matchup, April 4th. sure to be something that we will all participate in. Come on, everybody, get out and vote. And we have same day on-site registration, voter registration. No reason for you not to vote. So let's get right to it. Let's get some good news from Pastor Vicki Johnson. Pastor Vicki Johnson, how you doing today?
I am doing well, Santita. What about you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. It's a wonderful day, and now we are in the midst of another mayoral race. And so, hey, I want everybody to get out and just vote, 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 because it's anybody's race, everybody. It's anybody's race, but remember, it's yours. I spoke with State Representative LaShawn Ford, and he had a wonderful, wonderful talk in which he said, "Who will Chicago win?" And that's really the point. We make it about personalities, but it really is about the principle of all the people winning. Who will serve us best? So, Pastor Vicki Johnson, it's wonderful hearing from you today.
Yes. Well, good morning, Santita, and good morning to all of your morning stars and friends. There is good news. I love Black History Month, a time when Black love is in abundance, a time when the world is exposed to our greatness, inventions, accomplishments, achievements, talents, gifts, and abilities. We are great, but we were not intended to be great. We were brought to this country to serve and to make it great. When in addition, we achieved greatness. Although the month for Black history has come to an end, history was and is yet being made. LeBron James made history last month, breaking the all-time scoring record previously held by the great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. History was made a month ago when the Super Bowl was led by two Black quarterbacks, Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes, with the highest viewership in years. History is being made with notable individuals, but history is also being made by ordinary people every day. You do not have to be famous to make history. Fannie Lou Hamer was a Mississippi wife and mother who simply grew sick and tired of being sick and tired. And so she became a very vocal civil rights activist. You can stand up right where you are and make a difference that makes history. Standing up to vote, as we did last night, makes a difference. Contributing to causes makes a difference. Your name may not be called. Your name may not be written. We do not do the work that we do of fighting for justice and the rights of God's people for fame or acclaim. We are not trying to get into the history books. All we know is that when the book is written, let it be said that we were on the right side of history. Stand up. Speak out. Find yourself on the right side of history. If you will do this, then I believe that you will. Then to me, that's good news.
Pastor Vicki Johnson, tying the good news to all that we are living with right now. But then we come out of breadbasket and push now, do we not? We believe in putting flesh on these bones. That's right. You gotta make God is real. Real. And these lessons that we've learned, they're real. Oh, thank you for that. Thank you for that word this morning. How can we worship with you on Sunday on 80th and Jeffrey? As you say, 8,000 Jeffrey. I'm like 80th and Jeffrey, y'all.
St. Thomas Lutheran Church, 80th and Jeffrey, Chicago, Illinois, at 11:30 a.m. each Sunday for 1 hour of power. And or if you can't join us in person, you can always join us online on Facebook, St. Thomas Lutheran Church, Chicago. We'd love to have you.
I was giving myself away, Pastor Jonathan, because you know what I would do? I'm so literal. I would be looking for 8,000 Jeffrey, and I'd be driving to Detroit. I'm just trying to let you know. Oh, man. My mother said, I always knew there was something different about you. She told me to get out the window. She said you were about 2. And she came back into the room and she was looking for me. And she said, wait a minute, where is she? And she said she became frantic and she saw these little brown fingers on the other side of the window. I had gotten out the window. Do you hear me? You can't make this. Well, she told me. If my mama told me, I was going to do it. Okay, not real smart, but there you go. Letting y'all know I can be a little daft. That's all right. My father said, well, you know, if it's not in a book, my baby won't get it. So he said, let me try and help you. So, blessings to you. Before we pivot to Dr. Shanina Knighton, I want to at least get one of these callers in. Let me hear Alicia. Alicia, what's on your mind today?
Hey there, Santita. First of all, thank you so much for doing all the things that you do, you and your family. So,
bless your heart.
Thank you for that. I'm actually kind of disappointed in this race. So I truly believe that life was lost based on personality.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we truly could have dug into everything that she did, I've been in the city now for decades, and I've never heard anything about invest in Southwest and, you know, all the things that she at least tried to do, right? But she did lose, in my opinion, based on optics and personality. However, we had the Dailies in there for decades and decades, but we had over, I don't know how many there were. I'm just going to say, just to embellish here, over 10 people running in the campaign, when you knew only 1 or 2 are going to really emerge. So all those people who did run and only yielded like 1%, 2%, they really took away a lot of the votes. And so what's going to happen, even though we have 2 candidates here, the one that will more than likely emerge is the one that's talking about crime, which is a whistle for all those people who are moving back into the city, for all those people, you know, it's the fastest growing community in Chicago. I don't know if you guys know that, but if you Google it, you'll see it. And what they don't want to see, or at least have some small hiccups coming into their community. And because of that, that is all we're going to get. All the other things that we've talked about that we've lacked for decades, from systemic, structural, and institutional kind of racism and inequities, we will not see with the incoming one elected person who will pull it off, because his message has been clear, and it's been one single message, or one single issue rather, and that's crime. No one wants crime in the city, no matter where you live. So that should be universal. But that is all that will win, because that is that one single issue that's pretty clear outside of all the other things that I believe all the other communities have been needing for so long and have been underlooked and underserved and undervalued.
Look, I hear you. One of the things that we've learned from, I think, from Mayor Lightfoot's tenure is how important retail politics are, though, because I like her a lot. That having been said, and I think that she, you know, dealt with a whole lot. That having been said, you know, people care that you know, but my father often says that people need to know that you care. And I believe that she cares about people. I believe that. That having been said, it really does come down to how people feel about you. It really, really does. So, you know, that's something that I hope that that's one of our takeaways, because I think that we have got, it's going to be quite a race. It's going to be quite a race, and race is going to be at the center of it, because dog whistle politics, it's not even a whistle, it's on the megaphone. Whenever you're doing law and order, We're the ones, black and brown people, who get hurt. And we're the ones who are blamed as if some of the biggest criminals are not on LaSalle Street and Wall Street. But, Alicia, I thank you for calling. I think you have got some brilliant political analysis. Girl, you need to come on in with me someday so I can get that. Hey, from Brazil, how you doing, Ari? Oh, I'm sorry.
I said, get me on your show. I'll be happy to join you.
You know what? Because, I love to bring in callers. So you know what? I'm going to get my board operator to just stay right there. We want to get your information and bring you on. Okay?
Great.
Okay.
Appreciate
So you can be part of it. Absolutely. I love that. I love that. I had Linear Bob, had Yvonne. I love that, love that, love that, because there's a seat at the table for everybody here. And it belongs to you. And, I hate to abbreviate all of this today, but, Dr. Shanita Knighton, infection preventionist, we had this race and we still have this race because we have a runoff on April 4th. And, at the heart of this, law and order, crime, but you know what? It's health. Health. I mean, it seems that everything was upended by the COVID crisis. And now we see the SNAP benefits that will expire today. People are going to go hungry, Dr. Knighton. What does hunger do? I've got 3 minutes for you. I mean, how does not having enough food, the proper nutrients, how does it impact the growth of our children and the health of our adults?
Well, Santita, I think it's a bigger problem when you think about somebody going hungry. And I'm even thinking about it also from the health aspect, but just going back to, again, Maslow's hierarchy of living. Where on the bottom is food, shelter, and security. And that being at the very, very, let's say, when I say bottom, that means like that's the base. So when you talk about self-esteem, when you talk about anything else, those are the essentials that you need to have. Nutrition, just as we know, is attached to so many things. What you put in your body can be attached to depression. What you put in your body can be attached to energy. Like, it's so much that it deals with. It's attached to your immune system. And we've talked about food before and what it does. Think about the stress of not eating and that cortisol being released to your body and you not having any antioxidant or proper nutrition to be able to counteract the stress that your body's experiencing as a result of not eating. We don't think about the fallout of things, and that's the unfortunate part. When, as you mentioned, SNAP benefits start ending, we got COVID dollars and getting ready to go away. And how is that getting ready to impact people?
I mean, and that's what really, just thinking about these kids going to school hungry, and to think about people working folks who are hungry. Oh my gosh.
And so think about it. We know that's attached to crime. It's attached to poverty. We've had this conversation before of how somebody doesn't have food in the neighborhood. They're going to go to the closest grocery store. You may end up taking things because it's a survival mode. They need to eat, right? But then that grocery store becomes unprofitable. And then the next thing you know, the grocery store is shutting down. So then it ends up becoming a food desert. People don't have anywhere to, let's say, not only just not buy food, but it also carries those items that we talk about when we say hygiene poverty. So it's now taking away the soap, it's taking away the detergents, it's taking away all the essential items that somebody would have access to be able to purchase. And so we don't think about this chicken and the egg model. So when we see, why did they take this store out of our neighborhood? Well, it's still capitalism, and if they're going to be stole out of business because somebody needs to survive, it's like, unfortunately, they do have to stop the bleeding. And that was something I was not able to understand for the longest time, because I've seen hospitals leave our neighborhood.
Yes, absolutely.
Grocery stores have left our neighborhoods, which means that some of us have to drive farther. And when I've literally been on the side of protesting and really understanding why these things are happening, when that is at the center, the epicenter of that situation, or if the uninsured, which is unfortunate, is at the epicenter of the situation. It's so sad because you try to think through what is the solution. And unfortunately, when people are going hungry and their backs are against the wall and their children need to eat and they don't have resources, people go into a fight or flight mode.
Absolutely.
So I do not have the best answer for that, but I do fear that crime and other things potentially may pick up.
Well, you know what, everybody? And the next mayor of Chicago is going to deal with that. And all the mayors, everybody. Let's talk about this mayoral race here in Chicago. Thank you for queuing it up for me perfectly, Dr. Shanita Knighton. Hey, Dr. Nina. Hey, Dr. Nina. That is her handle, at Hey, Dr. Nina. Follow her. And let's talk about this race here in Chicago. April 4th is the runoff. What happened? How did we get here? Mayor Lightfoot, first mayor in 40 years not to win a second term. Wow. How did that happen? Back with more in just a minute of the Santita Jackson Show. Thank you.
Springs is powered by ComEd. You know, ComEd is preparing for a clean energy future at ComEd.com/clean energy. This is Gary Meslow from Roofers and Waterproofers Local 11. I've been asked, what is the difference between a union roofer and a non-union roofer?
Okay.
Start the day the same way. Get dressed.
Oh, now you know what, Henry, I need you to bring that down a bit, hon.
A union roofer knows their workplace will be safe. Will receive a fair living wage. There's an illness or accident in the family.
Henry, please bring that down a bit.
Employer-provided health insurance. The non-union roofer may not have any safety protocols at their workplace. Their health insurance, if it is offered to them, is taken.
Dr. Knighton?
And the wages will most likely be 20% less than the union roofer. The union represents and negotiates on behalf of their members to ensure fairness, a living wage, family health benefits, and a dignified retirement. And now, the recent passage of the Workers' Rights Amendment is time for you to form a union at your workplace. Don't settle for less than you deserve.
Okay, everybody. Why do you think Lori Lightfoot lost?
Matter to you, matter to us. People who have correct information, who take science seriously, need to speak up more. For accurate news coverage and factual conversation. Gotta know what's happening in my city. Chicago Progressive Talk, WCPT 820. You are listening to WCPT 820. The latest Chicago weather updates.
Hello.
Meteorology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Michael Carroll. For today, we'll see gradually decreasing clouds with high temperatures working up into the upper 50s. And for tonight, mostly cloudy, a low of 34. Cloudy conditions into your Thursday with upper 30s for high temperatures. Then a mixture of rain and snow likely on Friday with highs up to 37. We'll drying out once again for the weekend. Saturday, partly sunny up to 40. And that's your latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 38.
It's the season for cold floors and high energy bills. And Permaseal can help with that by giving you 15% off all insulation products through the end of February.
Okay, everybody. So, why did Vallis come out on top? Why did Vallis come out on top? Why did Brandon Johnson surge past Chuy Garcia and the mayor? Why did Lori Lightfoot lose, though? Alicia made some great points. But you know, politics is as much art as it is science. Let's be clear on that. People will reelect someone who's not very competent, someone who's not necessarily very bright. But if they make you feel good, they got you. If they do favors for you, they got you. I mean, all of that. There was the mayor of Providence, Rhode Island. He's passed on now, Buddy Cianci. And he was a very colorful figure. Had some domestic problems, was very plain spoken, very blunt, a little profane, all of that. But he kept getting reelected, even when he was arrested. You know, okay? But people liked him. He made them feel good. That's a real thing, y'all, in politics. Don't ever underestimate the power Oh, no, I need you to turn this down because the radio station's too hot. Okay? Turn it down just a bit. Do we have Chaparral?
We do not have Chaparral.
Okay, no worries. We'll get her later. But who do we have?
Dr. Michael, we have Dr. Michael Bear, Attorney Reverend Jeanette Wilson, Aaron Conley, Dwight McKee's not answering that, and we get them.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. Let us talk about this mayoral race. It is on and cracking, everybody. On and cracking. Let me go to Pam. Pam, what's on your mind today?
Good morning, Santita. Certainly, I supported Commissioner Johnson, and I'm glad he's in the runoff. As I said before, I voted for something, not necessarily against Mayor Lightfoot, because I supported a lot of things that she worked for, initiatives. I think she handled the pandemic as well as she possibly could. But then also, I just want to say, I want someone on the fifth board. I'm just going to really be honest about this, who is going to MAGA-proof the executive level in this city, because I think that's important for me. I'm hearing with Commissioner Johnson, he's a community organizer. They want to vilify CTU as all of the other unions who supported him, but you don't want to vilify FOP and balance. So here's what I know. Yes, crime is an issue, Santita. Mm-hmm. I know because I live in a community that I've had to go out there and try to fight crime myself on the street. So, Paul Vallis, I'm not willing to have these officers, some of them Proud Boy members and supporters, unleashed on Black people. And when we talk about Mayor Adams, let's not forget, because I talked to some of the people in that area, he also came up within the National Action Network. So I think there's a foundation of understanding the extremes that the police can go to. And I think he comes with that foundation, and hopefully that will inform some of his choices. So Paul Vallis doesn't have any of that. I'm not confident that Paul Vallis will get a handle on crime. But I am confident that Commissioner Johnson said he will not raise property taxes. Instead, he wants to make Chicago accessible for all people. That's important to me. Mm-hmm. Because you have too many people, particularly the business community, who benefit from no matter what mayor is in office. But they want the working class, poor, and every other class just struggling all the time. Now, the price gouging your food prices, but you're going to lower the boost that was receiving SNAP benefit. Mm-hmm. I heard Commissioner Johnson's acceptance speech. He talked about some of the things, direct quotes from Paul Vallis. But I see the media doesn't want to pick up on that. Paul Vallis' word. For me, it's an insult that he's even running. But I'm convinced that the people in Chicago are going to come through for Commissioner Johnson.
Well,
we need something different.
Pam, we will see, because now it's a whole new race. The fact is, Paul Vallis got the. Well, I'm going to pivot because, I think you've said a lot, and I'm so glad that when you call, because you have such keen analysis. Paul Vallis got 33.8% of the vote. Brandon Johnson, 20.2%. Chuy Garcia, 13.7%. Lori Lightfoot, 16.8% of the vote. And Jamal Green, 2.1%. Sophia King, 1.2%. State Representative Buckner, 1.8%. Willie Wilson, 9.4%. And Alderman Sawyer, 0.4%. So it is really, I think, anybody's race when we hear all of the campaigning. It's going to be very, very interesting. And I tell you that there is a tall order that this new mayor will have to fill. But we have a lot of questions, and we have a lot of folks who are going to help us to look at what we are looking at. Of course, we've got Dr. D, Dwight McKee, with us today. He's going to be with us for the rest of the show. Dr. Michael Byers is going to stay with us for a little while. And Reverend Jeanette Wilson, Esquire, from Rainbow Push, attorney Aaron Connolly. So excited to have all of you with us today. Well, Reverend Wilson, in a couple of minutes, tell me what do you think about yesterday? What did we learn? What happened?
Well, I think we learned several things. We did not have a really recognizable turnout in the African American community. It's a very low turnout across the board, and so our turnout was even less than when you talk about 70% of the people did not vote. That suggests to me that either 70% of the people were confused about where they were voting, because this is a year that we've had a remap and a redrawing of automatic lines, and people didn't know where they were supposed to go. Too little education was done to the electorate about where they were to vote, when they were to vote, and so I think that's one problem. The second thing is there was not a high turnout among young millennial voters. They didn't go to the polls. As much as Jamal talked about he represented youth, well, I don't know who his base was because they didn't vote. The mayor did not have an identifiable, the sitting mayor, Lightfoot, did not have an identifiable base of support. Dallas, we knew, had the white ethnic wards and the police. Chewy, we felt, had the Latino vote. And you saw a divided black community with all of those candidates running against each other. It's impossible to have a positive turnout with that kind of negativity and division among a part of the electorate. And so I think now we have to decide as a community who has the best opportunity to lead us into the next 4 years, lead us through the next 4 years in a very positive way. I think Mayor Lightfoot is the first mayor to lose in 40 years, but it's also the first mayor to have to lead in a pandemic, and the first mayor to have a COVID pandemic, a health pandemic, a violence pandemic that's unprecedented. And some would say it was caused by her, the rise in violence and crime in the city of Chicago. Much of it is, I think, the police decided after Laquan McDonald and what they witnessed in that case, they were going to take this city back. And that's the goal, I think, in supporting Dallas. Because they're trying to shift where they have someone who they believes in them, supports them. Lightfoot made it clear to the police when she hired Brown that she had no confidence in the Chicago police force. And when she selected her own bodyguard from the U.S. Attorney's Office. So I think all of those things have indicated the level of hostility and division that exists within the city that nobody wants to talk about. Mm-hmm. Who can heal it? I'm not sure, but I think that's a big issue that we face.
Oh, hey, everybody. Call us at 773-763-9278. Want to hear your thoughts about what happened. In a couple of minutes, Attorney Aaron Connolly, your thoughts.
Well, good morning, everyone, and happy after-election day. Mm-hmm. I hope everybody's had fun last night celebrating folks who won and also celebrating the folks who ran, right? Like, I think we need to also recognize that this is public service, and people put themselves out there and put themselves out and ran commendable campaigns that were in the community. And I think there's a real opportunity to build out those coalitions of folks who didn't make the runoff last night and maybe are going back to different forms of public service or back into business in our community. So thanks to those who stepped up and ran for office. And I think we need to see more folks from our community. And that's what we saw as Brandon Johnson being elected last night, as he's been the Cook County Commissioner, making it into the runoff as the most progressive candidate. I think that's what I'm taking out of this, right? That with all of the division and rhetoric in this race, as Reverend Wilson referenced, I think what we have now is an opportunity for a clear choice, right? We have Paul Dallas, who's backed by the Fraternal Order of Police, whose representatives are part of movements like the Proud Boys, and we saw a very contentious public safety city council meeting on that issue recently. We see many progressive folks joining runoff races as well, and I think Brandon Johnson Johnson will have a strong coalition going into the runoff of his progressive base, which he does have, and turned out in droves for him yesterday. And that is part of this CTU organizing that takes place in those communities. United Working Families and many grassroots organizations across the city, like GIA and local groups, ward by ward, that have come together for years to build a coalition of community, and that's who supported Brandon. And that was really great to see yesterday.
Dwight McKee, your thoughts about what we saw yesterday?
Well, I thought you saw, excuse me, I thought you saw a real situation where choices were on the table. I think that ethnicity also played a role. I think that the more progressive candidate was able to emerge from the pack, and that gives us the best advantage to win in the runoff. I think it's really going to come down between the Hispanics and where they end up going in the campaign. If I were Brandon, I would use the law and order issue to my advantage and paint Paul Vallis as an extremist, and let the Hispanic community know that if law and order becomes the rule of the day, that they too would potentially be victimized by it. Because just like the black community is a little intimidated by the notion of just law and order without justice, the Hispanic community, I think, can be as vulnerable if they understand that any of those beliefs see us the same way. They see the black community and the Hispanic community really as one disjointed community and can run rampant on each one of those communities. I also think that education is going to be a major issue. And Morales' assault on the education of the black community and some levels of the Hispanic community over the last 15 to 20 years, if dealt with correctly, can really play to Brandon's advantage. Because once all is said and done, violence may have been the worst thing that happened to public education in this city and 3 or 4 other cities in the last 20 years. So I think it'll be a very interesting race. But I think that honestly, Brandon has the advantage. I think balance will probably peak at 45%. Is my guess.
Well, you know what? I mean, you queued this up perfectly for Dr. Michael Byer, former Chicago public school principal and education reformer and education consultant. You pointed out something really key. You said, we've got a mayoral runoff between a former teacher, union leader, backed by his union and the rank and file, going up against a former superintendent, a corporatist, and I don't know what else to say, a corporatist, and someone who really has supported the privatization with public funds of public education. Talk to us. How did this happen? How did we get here? I mean, because I think Dwight is right. I think that education is going to be at the center of this thing because everybody wants their child to get a great education.
One of the things we should look at.
Well, hold on. Very, very quickly, because I need him to jump in.
Sure, I'll be quick. I don't agree that I think balance has a ceiling of 45%. If you didn't vote for him the first time, you won't vote for him the second time. And two, the union and Toronto support Johnson are going to get out the vote massively, so we'll have a higher voter turnout now that there's a clear choice. Well, as far as how we got here, this is a long time coming. This is not just because of the past few years. This is back to, some could even trace it back to the 1800s, 1880s, that Chicago public schools have been a center of corporate reform for almost 150 years now. There's been an experimenting ground on everything from charter schools to privatization to using test scores and so on and so forth. And Dallas was the first CEO or superintendent put in charge once mayoral control came around in the 1990s. And he was the first CEO put in charge, and he's not educated. Like you said, he's also not a police officer, so he has experience in neither. And what's more concerning is that he's a finance guy. He's an accountant, which is fine. You need accountants, of course. But what's concerning, though, is that he started a lot of the trends that we see to this day. And he made a lot of promises to make schools better for everyone. I'm going to quote a book real quick here, because by 2000, independent reports show that children in predominantly African American or high poverty schools under Vallis's leadership oversee the substandard education. Schools on probation or reconstituted were disproportionately in the poorest and most likely to be African American neighborhoods, where the mayor promised magnet and college prep schools were also least likely to be constructed or fully funded. And after 5 years, reconstitution was reckoned a failure. Test scores in the school had plunged, as had teacher morale. And here's the most damning line. Vallis had evidently hidden much of the damning evidence. So this man was going to hide.
Wait. Stop. Hold on. You got to say that one more time, because you gave us a lot of data, a lot of evidence. You said he hid it.
Yes. So he was put in charge of schools. He claimed he turned the district around. And what actually happened was that black teachers were laid off. Black schools were not improved. Magnet schools were promised and never built. And when they were built, they were funded at a lower rate than other neighborhoods, white or more affluent neighborhoods. And he did it. He's a researcher from the University of Chicago who wrote this book that I'm reading from. Dallas had evidently hidden much of the damning evidence. And so if he's going to hide evidence on Chicago public schools and then negative effects on black children, are you going to trust him with your police department? But this has been a long time coming of corporate reform, a school district being led by people who are not educators. And there's a role to play for corporate people. There's a role to play for business leaders, absolutely. But when teachers are consistently shut out of the 5th floor and of central office, not just for a couple of years, but for decades, if not over a century, this is the result. Eventually going to get fed up, and they're going to all push for a candidate. And it started with Karen Lewis, and ever since, they've been pushing for candidates, and they finally got one in the runoff. Well, the second time was Karen Lewis in the runoff. But they have a much better chance, I would say, against Dallas, given his history of failure, not just in Chicago, but in New Orleans, Bridgeport, Connecticut, Philadelphia. For some reason, this man goes to predominantly black cities, runs the school district, and then walks away with minimal to no improvement. After he left New Orleans, the entire school district was reconstituted and put back together after it had basically been privatized. So that's the choice you really have. And that's how we got here, is 100 years of a school district being pushed by corporate reformers who have no educational background.
And, and people who really had no intention of educating the masses. I mean, when Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr. was in Congress, he went through the Constitution. He said, okay, we do not have a federally protected right to vote. And he just saw all of these gaping holes that were in the Constitution. One of which he was obsessed with the fact that we needed equal access to equal high quality education. He said, nowhere in the Constitution are you guaranteed the right to be educated. That's why the kids up in Detroit have been suing, because they have been graduated from school, sent to college, and they can't read. There was one classroom in which an 8th grader was teaching their class because they had no teacher. I mean, this is what the privatization of the public school system is doing. That's what's happening here. Jeanette, you were going to say something?
I was going to say something very similar. The whole idea of creating a corporate model for public education has diminished education. This started really when the mayor did take over the school system, it was the worst school system in America. Chicago was. And so what he did was put a man over the school system who was not an educator, and he ended up closing a number of schools that allegedly were low performing. You reassign your best teachers away from the schools that are struggling and give them to schools that have high. That you take the high performing students and put them in gifted schools, quote unquote, or it's away from neighborhood schools. So you diminish the value of neighborhood schools. We closed 50 schools over the last decade. 50 public schools closed. Schools are a major business interest for communities. And so that has been a major problem in this city. And you've had people who are not educators running the school system for years, for decades. And that you can't do that. That model doesn't work. So that's what we have dealt with. And now you have an educator who has the potential to become mayor. The question is, how will he fund the necessary changes? You have a decline in black teachers in the city of Chicago. Most of our educators are not black teachers, and you have very few male teachers. Now, we have gutted the system and created this quote-unquote choice, which is not real choice. It is selecting out the best and brightest and leaving the rest to fend for themselves and not have educational options that are available to every child. Some children should be in the trades. We took the trades out of the schools, put them in the suburbs. And so the next mayor has to deal with all of that. And so I understand clearly what has happened in education over the years. And then the level of violence that we don't talk about that occurs in these school communities and in and around these school buildings impacts our children. Our children go to school every day in war zones. And they're not given social workers, not given the appropriate supports. They live in war-torn communities. I did crisis intervention for CPS. We had people out every single day. We were going from school to school, neighborhood to neighborhood, where children arrived at school and their friends were dead or hospitalized, and no counseling available to them. And so these are the issues that must be addressed, and that's got to be funded for social workers and psychologists.
But you know what, Reverend Wilson, you're absolutely right. But what we're going to have to do as citizens is have that information, and then we have to understand that the voting is the end of the beginning, not the beginning of the end. Now you must push whoever gets in office to make these things happen. You can't just sit back and have Mayor Johnson or Mayor Vallis do whatever it is that they said they were going to do. You must make them do what you need them to do. So just know, get it together, everybody. We got a lot of work to do. Before you go, Aaron Connolly, going forward, what do you think we need to do? I mean, because we've got till April 4th to vote, to make up our minds, to press now Mr. Vallis and Commissioner Johnson about the issues. I got 1 minute for you.
I think we hit those doors. We go back to what worked and what got us in the runoff. Turning out the base, expanding the base that was maybe had a little voter fatigue from the November election cycle, which was really intense, right? People were confused, as Reverend Wilson said. I think we have to turn out folks and make sure they know how to vote, when to vote, why to vote. And when we talk to folks on doors, they show up. And it was great to see those folks yesterday at the polls saying, hey, you showed up at my door. I'm actually here voting for that candidate. There's nothing better than that. And we have to keep building that community in the next 6 weeks and showing folks really what's at stake here. And we're talking about the future of our public safety system, how we reopen the closed mental health clinics, how we support teachers and hire social workers and librarians and, have a budget that reflects our values in the city. And that begins at the fifth floor, and it continues with the Progressive Coalition at City Council.
Amen. And librarians need libraries, which are populated by books, everybody. Hello. We need resources in these schools, in these poor areas. Come on now. Come on, people. We have places that do not have adequate gymnasia. This is crazy. and it's wrong. Thank you, Reverend Jeanette Wilson. I was about to make you a doctor. Ooh, well, you do have a doctorate of jurisprudence. Thank you, Reverend Jeanette Wilson. Thank you, Attorney Aaron Connolly. Everybody, oh, absolutely. We're going to continue this conversation because now we have another level of this race, another level. Now you have to press both of these candidates on your issues. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a moment. Okay. All right. Dr. Byer?
Yes.
Can you give us a snapshot of what you said coming in at the top of the next hour?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be back off shortly after that.
Okay. Now, I thought so, but I really want you to say that because that's very important. Very, very important. The fact that this information was hidden. You know what? Dwight knows this. I mean, I went K through 12 in the public schools, and I'm part of the first full 4-year graduating class of Whitney Young. And pardon me, and what was interesting about that was looking back, seeing the composition of the school, seeing who was there. Because even the superintendent of schools, Joe Hannon, took his daughter out of her high school and put her there. Jackie Vaughn, who was the head of the teachers union, her son was there. I mean, I saw all these folks and then a lot of people whose parents were part of the machine. Now, clearly that was not me. You know, I knew I had to have great scores and all of that because I would have ended up on, I would have been a commentary for Walter Jacobson. And that was very real because I grew up with that. That having been said, they pulled all the best teachers from all over the city and put them at that school. They did that. I mean, this was a highly coveted slot. And that became the model for Peyton and Northside Prep, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's a reason that all these magnet schools in Chicago are among the top high schools in the United States of America. That was the plan. You know, that was the plan. And, you know, Dr. Byer and Dwight, we could do that with all of our schools if we really, really wanted to educate people. But, you know, educated people are hard to manage. That's just my theory. When you teach people to read and think, yes, that's a little different. They're a little hard to manage. And I see that so clearly.
Well, the other thing that happened, Santita, is not only did you pull the best teachers, we tended to limit resources for the low-performing places, the neighborhood schools, and you created a different kind of model. I remember they called it Renaissance 2010, and that's when you created all of these high-performing places, and you make the teachers really have to jump through hoops so that they could get assigned to those schools. And then you left the other schools under-resourced, undervalued throughout the city.
And that was the plan. And I mean, and quite frankly, we have to give voice to that. We have to give voice to that because we saw it happen. I mean, there was a time when everybody was trying to get into South Shore. Everybody was trying to get into Lindblom. Everybody was trying to get into Kenwood. Hey, I wanted to go to Kenwood. I mean, because it was just a great school. I mean, academically, artistically, oh my gosh. You know, but you know, I need to open up some of these lines because I've got to get some of these callers in. So I'm gonna have to let you go, Jeanette, but I'm gonna have you back on tomorrow because I think now we're in the campaign. No, we're in the campaign mode, and we have to we really have to let people know what the issues are. We have to, because look, we went from Paul Vallis, who's not an educator, heading up our schools, to Arnie Duncan. Are you serious right now? In his first Wikipedia iteration, he was famous for having Black dialect. What? Come on. What? I mean, so you took the privatization of public education to a national level under Arnie Duncan, who I know, like, it's not personal with me. I mean, really, this is about the principle. Y'all need to think. Dwight, you still there?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I've got like a minute or so before we go back. Hey, Robert, I've got like a minute. Tell the history of Whitney Young and charter schools. Look, Nicole, we're both proud graduates of Whitney Young. But, we also knew because I know I fought hard to get into Whitney Young. I really wanted to go there. Why? Because it was the best school in the city. And I wanted to compete and learn with the best minds in the city. I sure did. I'm not going to front about that. I worked hard to get in there and worked hard once I got there. But I think that we need to push about, you got to push Paul Vallis on his support for public schools, public education. You got to, because he equivocates on that. And we cannot afford to have a mayor who does not support public education. Yeah.
We have about 4 minutes before the show starts up again.
And who do we have here? Who were you able to get, hon?
I was able to get Reverend Dr. Hatch.
And?
Yeah, unfortunately, Dr. Stark is not able to make it this morning.
Oh, okay, no worries. Okay, so I'm going to have you, Reverend Dr. Hatch. Dr. Byer is going to be leaving, but I'm going to have him open up the segment because he has a lot to say. We've got to bring him into more of our conversations, Reverend Dr. Hatch and Dwight McKee, because he really is so brilliant and so dedicated to our children. I mean, what I mean, I would have loved to have had a principal like him. I had a great principal in Bernard Dawson. Hello. And Miss Johnson at the John J. Pershing School, and Mr. McCann. Yeah. I had some great teachers. I had some great teachers, and I thank God for them. Oh boy. Miss Smith, they said she could teach a rock to read. She bought me my first book bag and got me my first library card. I went over to the library. She walked me over there to 35th and King Drive. That's where I got my first library card. And she sparked in me this love for learning and this love for books. And that was in the public school. Absolutely. And Miss Carter, with all of her lessons about the Dewey Decimal System, all these people in the public schools. Our public schools deserve, not more, they deserve to be treated right. There's a lot of genius out here. We're missing on the genius. We're missing on someone who can cure cancer, AIDS, and all of these viruses. We're missing all of that. We're missing someone, an excellent craftsman. We're missing great artists. We're missing great athletes because we want to privatize everything and hand everything over to corporate America. Don't let it happen, everybody. We will all be the losers. We will all be poorer. How much time do we have, Henry?
We have just about 3 minutes.
3 minutes?
A little bit less time, like 2.5.
No. Oh, I didn't need you to add it on this side. Just at the top.
I didn't add anything. This is just how it was.
Oh, really? That's how we set up? Okay. Well, make sure that it's not as hot. Okay.
Yeah.
Bring that down. Well, we've got Reverend Dr. Marshall Hatch and Dr. Byer, and I really hope that we will bring him, Reverend Dr. Hatch, into more of our conversations because he really is a reformer and has because he exposed so much of the rot and corruption in our system, they came after him. And we have to lift him up because it's our children, Pastor Hatch, who are being harmed by all of this. Who is this? Okay. And of course, we have your dear friend Dwight McKee on with us. Okay. Everybody call me.
Dr. D.
Dr. D.
What's going on, Reverend Dr. Hatch? Man, I'm super. And Dr. Hatch was a major player with Dallas at Chicago State, so he understands him as well as anybody who understands him and his philosophy.
And so does Congressman Jackson. They were over there together. So I mean, I get it. You know, we're gonna do all of that. And then I have Kitty Kurth and Kevin Lampy at the bottom of the hour. So everybody, we're going through this election. I want you to know it's the end of the beginning, not the beginning of the end. Now you must get involved. You must go to these debates. You must ask questions. When these people are shaking your hands at the bus stop and at the L, you need to ask them what they're going to do about public education. You need to ask them about health care. You need to ask them because they are asking you for a job. Don't get it twisted. They need you. And they need you now more than ever. So, you know, please go on and get courted. That's how you're going to win. How about that? So stand by, everybody. Okay. Whew. Okay, thanks.
Santita Jackson Show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show, the second hour, the day after the election. We will be having a runoff in Chicago between former CEO of Chicago Public Schools and former CTU leader, union leader, and public high school teacher, and now Cook County Commissioner Brandon Johnson. It is going to be exciting, everybody. You can have same-day on-site registration, voter registration. You got to get out and vote, and we now need to put these issues on the table. You need to know what these men stand for, and more than that, you need to tell them what it is that you want them to do once they become mayor. One of those two persons will become mayor. I'm Santita Jackson. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show on WCPT, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It's a joy to be with you today. I want you to call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. I've been hearing from all of you today, Alicia and Pam and Renee. I wish you'd call in, and Nicole, all my folks, Robert, Dave. Call in and talk to us about what you think about last night's race and what you think is going to happen on April 4th. That's right, just a little more than a month away. But here we are. We now know who will be facing off to become the next mayor of Chicago, everybody. Let's get to some of these headlines. In Chicago, 53 degrees will be our high, partly cloudy. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 35 degrees. There will be snow. And in the NBA, the Raptors 104, the Bulls 98, the Timberwolves 108, the Clippers 101 points. And in Chicago, an era ended. Patrick Kane, part of an iconic group of men on the Chicago hockey team. Well, guess what? In a 3-team trade, he will be going to the New York Rangers. Blessings to Patrick Kane. But we're going to miss you, everybody. In the NHL, the Coyotes 4, Chicago 1, and the Wild 2, the Islanders 1, everybody. What happened last night in this race? We do know Paul Vallis got 33% of the vote, and Brandon Johnson got 20% of the vote. The mayor got 16.8% of the vote. Chuy Garcia got 13.7%, and Willie Wilson got 9.4%. Top tier. So, what do you think is going to happen on April 4th? Who will be able to pull it out? Will Vallis pull it out? Will Johnson pull it out? I want to hear from you. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT, everybody. Praying for the people of Greece today. At least 36 people were killed in a train collision on Tuesday night in central Greece. The Greek fire service said a passenger train was carrying more than 350 people when it collided with a freight train, everybody. Scientists say tests in East Palestine, Ohio show unusually high levels of some chemicals in the aftermath of a toxic train wreck. The toxic train wreck from February 3rd last month. 9 of the dozens of chemicals that the EPA has been monitoring are higher than would normally be found in the area, according to a group of scientists from Texas A&M and Carnegie Mellon University. I did an engineering program there years ago. Yeah. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot became the first mayor in more than 40 years to lose their bid for re-election, marking that first time. Can you believe? Why do you think she lost, everybody? I want you to call me. Call me at 773-763-WCPT, 773-763-9278. And of course, we have got Brandon Johnson, Commissioner Brandon Johnson, and former CEO of Public Schools, Paul Vallis, who will be running in this race. Let's get a couple of these. As we are looking at this race, we're also looking at economics, everybody. Home ownership is central to the wealth of Americans. Indeed, that's generally our biggest asset, our homes, but more and more of us are not able to buy homes. Fewer and fewer of us, let me put it that way, are able to purchase homes. So guess what? Team Hochberg wants to help you. If you are a first-time home buyer, meaning if you have not owned a home within the last 3 years, you need to call Team Hochberg at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, your trusted local lender. First-time buyers made up just 26% of home buyers last year, down from 34% just the year before. It's the lowest home buyer market in more than 40 years, everybody. So Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have stepped into the breach. They want to turn these numbers around by incentivizing first-time home buyers, people who have not owned homes over the past 3 years, by offering substantially lower rates. Now, this could change at any time, so you need to go on and get in the mix right now. If you make less than $105,700 and have not owned a home within the past 3 years, call Team Hochberg and see if you qualify for these low interest rates, which could change at any time. This special offer can change at any time, so you need to call Team Hochberg today, everybody, at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID. This is your opportunity to build generational wealth for your kids, for your grandkids. You can do this, but you got to take advantage of this incredible opportunity from Freddie Mae and Fannie Mae Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. But what you have to do is have some people walk you through the application process. And Team Hochberg is willing to do that. So call them at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or go to 56david.com, 56david.com, and find out more about this and their Perks at Work program. So everybody, let's talk about this race, everybody. This race that will be about law and order, that some people say will be about race too. It'll be about education. It'll be about all the things that we deal with here in Chicago. Of course, the pastor of the New Mount Pilgrim Missionary Baptist Church here in Chicago, a brilliant theologian, used to be the head of religious affairs at Rainbow Push. He's done so much, brilliant scholar, professor, all of these wonderful things. And more than that, a wonderful husband and father. Of course, I'm talking about none other than Pastor Marshall Hatch. And then, of course, we've got Dr. D, Dwight McKee. Everybody keeps asking for me to bring him back, so that is what I do. But let me start with you, Dr. Michael Byer, former Chicago public school principal, and you are an education reformer. You're an education consultant, and it should not be lost on any of us that we are dealing with someone who is pro-union, a union leader, someone who is pro-public education, someone who lives in one of these struggling communities, and that is Cook County Commissioner Brandon Johnson. And we're dealing with a corporatist, right? We're dealing with someone who was the CEO of public schools, who led, not just here, but in other cities like New Orleans, the privatization of our public resources, the privatization of public schools. Talk to me. Who is Paul Vallis, and what is this? And who is Brandon Johnson? And why is it of interest that these two persons are facing off in this race at this time?
Yeah, thank you, Santita. So, as I mentioned earlier, that this is a long time coming, well over a century, the public school district that has been run by non-educators, that has been run by the business community. And just to be clear, I don't see anything wrong with the business community being at the table, having a loud voice in how a school district is run, but when it's predominantly for well over a century run only by business interests and educators are locked out,
and which is why the union has to be so loud. This is the result. You get union-backed candidate, and this started long before even Karen Lewis. This was the end result of corporate-led reform. And Paul Rouse was the first superintendent, or as we call Aaron Chicago Public Schools CEO, after mayoral control. And he has no education background, nor does he have any policing background either. He's a finance guy, which again, we need finance people, but to put them in charge of education and in charge of teaching and learning is another question. And, the quote of the last hour is a quote from a book called School Reform Corporate Style, Chicago, 1880 to 2000. It's written by Dorothy Ships from the University of Chicago, which tends to lean towards, the business community leading the Chicago schools and other districts. But it goes on to show through research that when Vallis was CEO, he promised, improving the school district, turning around, or they call it reconstituting. But by 2000, and according to the book here, a rash of independent reports showed that children, predominantly African-American or high-poverty schools, still received a substandard education. Schools of probation or reconstituted in the poorest and most likely the African-American neighborhoods. They were promised magnet and college prep schools that were also least likely to get funded or fully funded when built. After 5 years, reconstitution under Vallis was reckoned a failure. Test scores in the schools had plunged, as had teacher morale. Vallis had evidently hidden much of the damning evidence. She is a superintendent in charge of a school district who did the worst work for some of the vulnerable children, black, poor children, hid the evidence, and after she goes on to be superintendent in Philadelphia, New Orleans, Bridgeport, Connecticut, predominantly black districts, so black cities, and he does this over and over again. So if you want to put a man in charge of the city who hid evidence about damning evidence for how black and poor children received an education or failed to receive a proper education under the school district, and now you're going to also let him run the police department, I'm not sure what's going to convince you otherwise. But that's who, what do they say? When they show you who you are, or when this is their history, this is their legacy. And that's how we end up where we're at. I wouldn't even call it a corporate reformist. I think he just moves around district to district, and this is the result. And the CTU, rightfully so, sees what's on the table, and they're fighting to prevent this from happening again.
Everybody, what do you think about that? What do you think about that? Before you go, is there anything else you would like to add, Dr. Byer?
It's going to be a very interesting race. I think this will be, what's interesting is that in education, the trend has been against using test scores. Vallis was solely focused on test scores as the only benchmark of quality education. And all the research has shown that while that is good, useful information, it's not how you should measure schools or teachers. It's actually, it works the opposite way. You can start doing that. But what's going to happen is that in education in the past couple decades is that the reform movement has realized, okay, and admitted test scores should be used in that way. This election right now might be the last final stand for what we've come to know as corporate education reform in this country. And that's what's on the table. It's not just the city of Chicago. Chicago is symbolic of our entire country, especially when it comes to education and police reform. There's both need to perform, both need improvement, and that's what's on the table between these two candidates. It's going to be an epic battle. But thank you for having me on, Santita.
Always a joy to have you on. We've got Dwight McKee, we've got Pastor Marshall Hatch, Reverend Dr. Marshall Hatch. So what do you make of what we saw yesterday? And what about this battle over public education? It seems like that's going to be central to this, along with law and order. I mean, I think now everything is going to come up, Pastor Hatch.
Yes, good morning. We're going to see an epic battle here, and it's going to be probably a national focus on this campaign. some of us are very familiar with Paul Vallis, and it's going to be a very difficult race for Brandon Johnson to. He needs to get out in front and shaping his own narrative. Last night, everybody was calling him the defender. Of the police. That is a recipe for defeat. To be labeled the defunder of police, and he's called the taxer. That's the second sort of coffin in the nail. He's going to have to get out in front of defining himself. I think that the Hispanic vote, only 8% of the voters, and I think we kind of really saw last night that was part of Chewy's fade. But he's going to become very important, Chewy Garcia. He's really built out of the Hispanic vote in this town a real sort of Hispanic progressive machine. And so I think that would be Brandon's first call last night and this morning. We try to get Chewy in the camp and to allow him to sort of broaden his tent. So it's going to, this is a battle that's going to tell us whether or not Black Chicago survives. I think that the election of Paul Vallis as the mayor would be a major setback for any kind of recovery for Black Chicago. So this is going to be epic, and we're going to need all hands on deck.
We're talking with Pastor Marshall Hatch, the Sankofa Project, the Martha Redemption Project from the New Mount Pilgrim Missionary Baptist Church here in Chicago. Brilliant theologian, college professor. There's so much that he is doing, and he is helping us to see that this narrative is something that Brandon Johnson is going to actually have to shape. Dwight McKee, how can he shape it? How can he, as Pastor Hatch has said, which I think is brilliant insight and brilliant political strategy, but he does that too. How does he get ahead of it? I've got a couple of minutes before we go to break.
Well, first you have to understand, Pastor Hatch, that the goal is for Black Chicago not to survive. The goal is to set a precedent to gentrify the city and bring in a whole other constituency in the city who is basically white and well-to-do. And so all of this is a strategy in order to gut the public education, to get minorities out of the city, to then be moving in more people with more means and people from the suburbs into the city. So strategically, this already is part of the plan. These guys are elitists, and they think education should be for the elite. How do you get ahead of that? I think he did a good job last night. I was glad to see him going after Dallas last night. I think he has to take the kid gloves off, get all of the facts together, assemble all of the facts, and like you said, the Pastor Hatch, I think so eloquently, is create the narrative. He can't be, as I saw some of the candidates in this campaign, differential to Vallis. He has to go with him hands up, take the gloves off, and tell the exact truth, the absolute truth, on what he's done, what his motives have been, and what the results have been of his policies. And the people in the communities that have suffered directly from his policies and his strategy. And he has to tie that into the police department and what law and order really means at the street level, that it really gives the police a license to operate in the traditional approach that they've used, which is take the gloves off, beat the people down without accountability, and create enough the fear of God in those people who right now are still a majority. They will be the most victimized by that philosophy.
Everybody, what do you think? Call us at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. What do you think about this runoff? Now we are in a new mayoral race. It's between Paul Vallis and Brandon Johnson. Who you got? I think you make the great point, Reverend Dr. Hatch, that Brandon Johnson cannot be on defense if he wants to win. No. He's got to, as White says, you got to take it. I mean, power concedes nothing without demand, everybody. This is not a game of tiddlywinks. Now, either you're going to grown up and grow up and be in this thing to win it or not. And no one said you have to be cruel. You should not do that. That is unholy. It's not whole. It's not complete. It's wrong. But you must advocate. And we have to help. We have to support our candidates in their advocacy by pushing them. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. You know, everybody keep talking because we're on Facebook Live and everybody's really engaged.
Yes, I think that Miss Santita and Dwight, Dr. Key, I was a little disappointed that I know Brandon's the first time at this level, and so I overlooked it. But it was a lot less polished than I wanted it to be.
How so?
The victory speech.
How so?
Oh, he needed a much more pre-selected, diverse crowd behind him. That's his first kind of imaging. With his victory speech, and I don't think it was really good for the first talking head that people saw was Stacey Gates on behalf of the candidate. She probably would have been best not to have been there. That's not going to be a plus going forward. He's going to have to show some independence from the teachers union, and that wasn't a good initial look. I mean, he's got time to kind of redo this piece and to maybe get some professional handlers in there. I imagine he should be able to raise the kind of money that he needs, not just locally but across the country, because he's really a lot is riding on his shoulders, and he's proven himself to be a quick learner. But that wasn't a good look either, in my opinion.
But you know what? I think you bring up the point. You know, while Reverend Jackson is still with us, talk to him, y'all. No one has done this better, longer than Reverend Jackson. And he has survived, which as a Black man is not an easy feat. In fact, most of our men do not survive, let alone thrive as independent people in this system, in power, in the power space. Because, it's not like we haven't been in this zip code before, Pastor Hatch. Some of us have been doing this a long time. You know that. That's how you're able to say, wait a minute. Just given the head of religious affairs, that being the head of religious affairs at Push had you dealing with imams, rabbis, and everybody.
Hi, Ms. Jackson. We have about a minute and a half left. Also, we have Kitty Kurth and
Kevin
Lambie out and ready to go.
Okay, fantastic. I mean, you. Not that you didn't know the value of that before, Pastor, but we welcome Kitty and Kevin to the show. But you know what I mean, Pastor Hatch.
Yeah, you got to broaden the tent. And I would have. I know they were excited, but I would have been a lot more intentional about what the backdrop looked like. And, it's just a great opportunity. There's your first crowd there, which was really down the street. Literally, he was 3 blocks from our church last night.
Okay.
He was 4600 West with 43.
Okay.
And he brought it home to the community, and he had a very diverse crowd. He's a quick learner, and but we need to. He's got to expand the tent, and hopefully, Chewy will be the first endorser in a matter of days, which sends the signal that that he's brought in this tent.
That's right. Make him a partner, and reach out to the Asian American community. And you have people who want to be a part. Do it. Do it, do it, do it. The coalition is how we will all win. Stand by, everybody. Kitty and Kevin.
Good morning.
Kitty. Is Kitty there? Or is she on mute? Well, we got you, Kevin. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show on WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio. I have to give a shout out to Patty Vasquez and Joan Esposito, brilliant journalists and hosts. I was so pleased to be with them last night, and with our Lady B, Bedalia Tejada. I was so wonderful to see her. She looked absolutely gorgeous, everybody. And Matt Cummings, and just really holding it down at the station last night, doing the wall-to-wall coverage. George Bliss, Jerry Riles, Steve Lessman. Everybody was out in the fields, really getting the information to you. And everybody, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being part of the incredible growth that our station is seeing. It's all because of you. Everybody, I want you to call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. I want to know what your thoughts are about this race. What do you think is going to happen here? What do you think is going to happen here? I tell you what, I know Kitty Kurth actually has some thoughts. I know Kevin Lampe has some thoughts. We've been getting a political class from Reverend Dr. Marshall Hatch, who along with being a theologian and a pastor of the iconic New Mount Pilgrim Baptist Church here in Chicago, he is also an organizer and an activist. And college professor and all of that. So he really hits a lot of notes. And of course, this brilliant social scientist, Dwight McKee. This is really, really, really wonderful stuff that we're talking about here. Before we go to Kitty and Kevin, I want to hear from Pastor Hatch and then you, Dwight. I mean, Pastor Hatch, what is the path forward for these candidates today? What do you expect to see from Brandon Johnson? What must he do to win? What must Paul Vallis do to win? Not that you want to help any other candidate out, but I just, what is the pathway to victory? Pastor Hatch.
Brandon Johnson is going to have to expand his tent. He's going to, number one, consolidate the constituencies of all of the other black candidates if he can, or as many of them as he can. And then the black public officials, particularly the African American and progressive aldermen, that's black but progressive aldermen, who each have their own war organizations. And then he needs to do all that he can to bring Troy Garcia in, who has a progressive Hispanic machine that actually can deliver votes. And then he's got to expand out beyond the black community and even the Hispanic community and try to, of course, project himself as progressive. He needs to mitigate being boxed in the corner as a tax and spend candidate, and he needs to also figure out a way to get out of the defund the police foxhole that they put him in. And so he's got to move beyond all of that, and he's got to, at the end of the day, he's going to have to try to turn this into a national race of basically a progressive Democrat in the city of Chicago, have them raise money nationally and up his profile. Paul Vallis is going to do all that he can, number one, to try to mitigate the sort of right-wing box that he's been put in. And he is a right-winger. But he's going to try to use black faces. That's the Paul Vallis I know. And he prides himself on being fairly competent in knowing how to
El Paso.
Who shot and killed a black man.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now he was to be clear, his son was found not to have been a police officer who fired the trigger, but he was part of the team that chased this young man down, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And said, get down, boy.
Mhm.
You know. And he mentioned last night that his entire family are police officers, firemen, and then he said teachers are really, really government workers. So I mean, this was a signal to those 5 wards here in Chicago where 52% of the police personnel live. The neighborhoods we're familiar with on the southwest side, and then up near O'Hare Field. So this is the white ethnic candidate. But Paul is going to do all he can to use black faces to mitigate it, to sort of soften the edge of his really he's a right winger.
Dwight McKee.
Well, I think he has to do what I told your brother to do when he ran for Congress this junior. Is he has to take this from a campaign to a crusade. And he has to use the history of the city to his advantage by playing the politics of inclusion to mitigate the politics of exclusion that has existed in the city for the last 100 years. So when you talk about defund the police, a better approach than that is he's going to expand the police beyond those 5 boards that we have talked about, and then now it's a chance to bring in the Asians in terms of the police department, and the Hispanics as part of the police department, and the blacks as part of the police department. And those people have been left out of the police mainstream all of these years. He has to bring them into the contracts in the city. He has to really focus on reforming education and bringing back the teachers, community-based teachers. So it's like we need community-based police. We need community-based teachers. Right now, most of the teachers, because of Teach Chicago, Teach America, have been, the blacks and Hispanics have been run out of the school system, and all the men have been run out to make room for young white teachers. And even though that's his base as a teachers union, if he's going to win, he has to broaden that base to include those who have been locked out in those communities who've been locked out, that it becomes an opportunity for them to be part of the economy. And lastly, again, I think he has to take a regional approach to economic development. I say all the time, I saw the mayor of Atlanta use the airport to bring Atlantans and the minority Atlantans into the economy and into the markets. I saw nearly do that with the O'Hare Airport, they do that with the Dan Ryan Expressway. Is that he should talk about an airport out south that can become a point of economic development for those blacks who have been displaced out there and those blacks on the south side that don't have an opportunity to work at O'Hare Road. And I think he should go straight for not taxing the property owners in the city again, but a tax on the mercantile mark in the border trade, where all this money is being made in a transaction fee, because again they live off the prerogatives of the people in the city, and they don't pay a tax on that. And you can raise billions and billions and billions of dollars while you relieve the burden of carrying the tax burden on the property owners and the people that with the tickets and the red light cameras and the poor being oppressed, having to carry the burden for the rich. So he really needs to play the politics of inclusion.
Kevin Lampe, your assessment it seems that Brandon Johnson surged over the past few weeks. I mean, we, and because we thought maybe, of course, Chuy Garcia, of course, the mayor, of course, and then it was Brandon. But then we did see Paul Vallis make a strong showing last night, relatively speaking. Talk to us.
It was what I think is so interesting as the numbers are shaking out is we had expected the margins to be much thinner than it turned out to be. And that there's even some thought that it might take the March 14th for us to actually get this election certified and know who the two candidates are going to be. I think you're looking at some ward races where there's some razor thin margins, but some that are definite. There's a difference that has happened. I think it is the race has begun now, and kind of talk about this in terms of a traditional campaign where there's a primary, there's a general election. We're on the general election right now, and it is clearly defined in the city. It is clearly defined in most wards where there's going to be a runoff. But now we've gone from the marathon to the sprint.
So how can Vallis win? How can Brandon Johnson win? And do you think that with law and order, which is, the dog whistle politics that you have been decrying for the past few weeks, do you think that racism, not race, there's no problem with race, racism is the problem. Do you think racism will be central to this campaign, either overtly or covertly?
This is going to be a much more intense time now between this and April when the next election is held, the runoff election is completed. You're going to see there's a couple of interesting things going to happen over the next 2 to 3 days. One, the greatest edition, the Chicago edition of Let's Make a Deal, is going on right now. There is people that everybody is calling everybody else. Everybody's trying to figure out who's with me, who's against me. Everyone's trying to figure out people on the phone raising money right now. People on the phone saying, hey, if you stand on the sideline, there's no longer a time for you to sit on the sidelines. It's time for you to participate. We're going to see that everybody is, we call in politics, the Apple books, which is the book of opposition research that everybody's done on their potential opponents. And they are going through that thinking, okay, what has to be said now? When most campaigns were trying to be more positive during this first series of elections that happened yesterday, now we're going to see that negative campaigning is going to be intensified. It is going to be bloody. It's going to be aggressive, and everybody is going to be looking to, okay, how can I expand over what I had? And, look at the mayor's race. The vast majority of people, more than half the people voted for somebody else in the race other than the two people that are going to be in it. And that's happened in many of the wards. Even the wards, though, or even less. It could be 60-70% of the people that voted didn't vote for either one of the candidates. So it is going to be a tense period. The big winner of the next 2 days is the telephone company. Because all the phone calls can be made.
Only you, Kevin Lampe. So do you think that the dog whistle is going to become a siren?
It is, and it's not going to happen in the mayor's race. It's going to happen in every single race in this across the city. I think we're also going to see an expansion of because each candidate is pretty clearly defined the way they stand on public safety. But they're going to have to talk about something other than that issue in order to move the needle. Because each candidate knows exactly how many people that are with them 100%. They have a base that's clearly defined. There's anywhere from Brandon 20% to Paul Vallis 35%, and then when you get into these automatic runoffs, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20%. And now they're going to have to figure out how do I reach the rest of the voters now that this is a two-person race throughout the city and in many wards.
Kitty Kurth, are you there?
I am here.
So what do you make of...
Kevin Lampe and Dwight and the Reverend said all the smart stuff, so I'm here to back cleanup. behind-the-scenes race where Paul Vallis and Brandon Johnson have to scramble to get those other candidates who ran. They have to get their support and the support of their voters. And I do think it will be interesting now. The conversation will be clarified. We will be able to hear more about more issues, what Vallis thinks about issues other than just crime, what Brandon Johnson wants to do with his budget plan and with the other issues that are important to people. How are each of the candidates going to build the economy and revitalize our city? It will be really interesting now. People will be able to hear it during the debates that will happen. There'll be more time to hear from each of the two candidates for mayor. And in the aldermanic races where there are runoffs, there will be a much more defined discussion, and we'll see more clearly the differences between the candidates, but also their ideas for the city and whose vision will carry forward and drive people back to the polls for April 4th.
Well, who do you think has the edge, or do you think it's anyone's race right now, Kitty?
Well, I think from having listened to a couple of the forums before February 28th, I think that there are more candidates aligned with Brendan Johnson's views than there are with Paul Vallis's views. It will be interesting to see what Willie Wilson does. Does Willie Wilson stick to his law and order line and go with Vallis, or does he endorse Brandon Johnson, or does he sit on his hands? It will. I think that if you played this game on a board game, which politics never is, if you played this game on a board game, just looked at it on paper, Brandon Johnson has the advantage right now. I think that Paul Vallis will increase his base a little bit, but I don't see him getting over about 42 or 43% in the next round of election. But we don't know what's going to happen until April 4th. Mm-hmm. That's what makes politics exciting.
Well, and I have to tell you, I think that a lot of Paul Vallis's voters, like President Trump's voters, don't want to be identified. I think that he has a lot of, if you will, Pastor Hatch closet voters, because dog whistle politics, right wing, you're Republican, blah, 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 all this stuff. I really think that I think he's got a real shot, because a lot of folks will coalesce behind him on racism. They will. On law and order. They will. On the privatization of public schools, because public schools are not as good as private schools, which is completely crazy. And, quite frankly, it's just not smart. So, do you think that there are a lot of closet supporters of Paul Vallis? Because he was like clocking at 20%, and then he got 33% of the vote, Pastor Hatch.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. There are a lot of folks who are not going to be interested in being publicly identified with Paul Vallis, who are going to vote along really racial lines, because that the crime issue is the dog whistle for race, and that's why I think that Vallis probably going to do his best to put a few black faces around him to sort of mitigate the racist label. But I think that that's part of what we saw in the surge of Vallis, and that is Vallis is when he says a law and order candidate, it means the white people's candidate. For people for whom black and crime is synonymous. So it's going to be an interesting job that I think Brandon has to define Paul Vallis, and he needs contrast stop, so that you'll get some full-core look at reviewing their support for Vallis, and would be somewhat ashamed to be identified with him if he gets basically framed right, as he should, as a right winger.
In about a minute, Kevin, where are we going with this? And April 4th is around the corner, but I'm with you. I think it's going to be, I think with everybody here, we all agree this is going to be very intense, a very intense campaign. What will an intense campaign look like? 1 minute.
So it is important to look at what we in business call IE's independent expenditures. This is the first time that we're going to see in the city of Chicago and throughout the wards a large presence from independent expenditures that these are political action committees that sometimes, based upon the structure of that committee, sometimes we know what the donors are. Most of the time we do not know who the donors are. We're going to see a lot more money coming from third parties, different groups who are going to be playing in races all across the city, in the mayor's race and the individual wards. This outside, this money that's not necessarily tracked, is going to play a huge difference in this. Mailboxes are going to be filled up, the airways are going to be filled up, and people are going to be hustling to see who's got a field team, and who is the money behind it, and who is going to be behind the support for each of these candidates that we may not know who the donors are. So it is something that I think the media, particularly independent media, needs to be constantly looking at, figuring out, okay, who is really behind these 10 mailings, these TV commercials, and who are the people that are trying to influence the election beyond just the candidate's own campaign team.
Kitty, I've got a minute for you.
Well, I think that the role of civic organizations and the media is heightened. I know that WCPT is planning a debate. I think that Rainbow Push is planning a debate. And those debates and forums become a lot more important, because that's where we'll get to see now from just the two candidates head-to-head with one another. What's your plan for the city? What's your vision for the city? What do you want Chicago to look like 4 years from now? And the voters will get a chance through the debates to hear from the candidates. But the candidates need to get out and get to every corner of the city, and the mayoral candidates, and campaign and go talk to people. One-on-one retail politics becomes critically important.
Everybody stay right here. I'm going to get some closing thoughts on the other side on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel and the Santita Jackson and Friends page. I'm also streaming on Reverend Jackson's page. Imagine that. That's right. I want to thank all of my guests for being here today, for giving these keen insights into what was, really quite a night. Oh, what a night. Thank you, the Dells. Oh, what a night. But, oh, what a day. Oh, happy day. Get out and vote. Get registered to vote. Get involved. Do not let the minority shape the majority's lives. Don't let that happen. Don't let that happen, everybody. Too few of us voted. We need to get out and vote. Please make that happen. So that, if you don't do that, April 5th, you will have no right to complain. You will have no right to say anything, because you've not participated in the process. The process works when you work it. Thank you, Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman. It works when you work it. So get out there and make things happen, and push these candidates, especially the ones you like and love, because now they're being pushed by people who did not support them. That is the way politics works, everybody. So get out here. Tell Brandon Johnson, tell Paul Vallis, tell him what you want. And if you are not supporting Paul Vallis, you tell him what you want in a mayor. How about that? Because you still might not vote for him, but you will say, you know what? You will not have an easy ride of this if you don't come through for me. And you should say that to all candidates, to everybody. That's right, to Brandon Johnson. You have to let people know what it is that you need them to do. Remember, before you get who you want, get what you need. Politics is a negotiation, everybody. I love you. Can't wait to be with you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show. know what? Let me ask you this very quickly. Kitty, why do you think that the voter turnout was so sluggish, so low in person? I mean, we broke these records, early voting, but people just don't seem to be really moved right now. Kitty?
I disagree. I think it's just that about the same amount of people voted. They just voted at their convenience. They came and voted early. People who would have been at the polls on Tuesday. I think that our pattern of voting has changed. Like the esteemed Kevin Lampy says, we now have voting season on election day. And people are voting at their convenience. But what we still need to do, what your father's been trying to do for years, we need to expand the number of people that actually come to the polls and care about elections.
But are we voting at a high rate, Kitty?
No, I think it's about the same. When we get all the ballots counted, I think the percentage of people who voted this time is going to be approximately the same as the percentage of people who voted last mayoral election.
Kevin Lamb?
Turnout is going to be approximately the same.
I just wish more of us would participate in the process. I really, really do. And the young people have to get involved, but they have to be inspired to involve. I mean, Dwight McKee, and they have to be shown what to do. I mean, you did that as head of the youth division in Red Basket and Operation Push. And, and the fact is, when you look at that, also Reverend was very young. And so everyone was out working with people all the time. And I think that people have to understand, Dwight, that you can't just get people excited for a season. You have to be driven by a reason, and you have to organize people all the time. It's a 24/7, 365 job that you never ever quit, Dwight.
Well, I think that Brandon has two intangibles that he needs to exploit. One is youthfulness, in other words, likability. And it gives him an opportunity to go and bring more young people into the process. I would take a young guy like Green, give him a functional role in the campaign if he's willing to do that. And I would have a strategic approach to trying to bring younger people into the process. I think Brandon has much more of an opportunity to do that than.
Could you all keep talking? Someone's at my door. Keep talking. Just a moment.
So I think what's going to happen is over the next few weeks, we're going to play another game in Chicago, and that game is going to be the game with streets and tunnels. Is people are going to line up based on their own self-interest with the candidate they think is going to help them. And there's so much dealing that's going on. Everybody's going to figure out what's in it for them and what they can get out of it. And it's going to be important. There's going to be so much bad happen now with these strange bedfellows because people are going to line up where they will traditionally line up. They're united against defeating somebody else for mayor or defeating somebody else in their wards. It is going to be fascinating to see what the landscape looks like when we come today.
Dwight, I agree. People have to work really hard to bring in people. Julian Green got more votes than Rod Sawyer or Sophia King and other candidates with a more traditional base. So I think that Brendan Johnson and Paul Vallis both need to be competing for Julian Green support and for Sophia King support and Rod Sawyer support and Willie Wilson. I mean, where these candidates go and to the extent that their followers will keep following them is the key.
Santita saying the song of the day is "Oh Happy Day." I say the song of the day is "Make It Funky."
Oh my goodness! Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye. Cut him off. Cut him off. Golly, what? Whew. What? Why do we want to make it funky?
Because it's going to be in the streets, hard those old school, gritty campaign. And the one that, and I think you have to take the gloves off and come to fight. I think this is a Mike Tyson fight. This is not going to be Muhammad Ali fight. It won't be full like a butterfly, sting like a bee. It's going to be hit and growl as hard as you can. Make it funky.
Well,
Yeah, I did the right that I think that Brandon's best chance is to turn it into a crusade, which is why somebody like Jamal's constituency it would be helpful to bring out the young people who probably would not normally vote. And 5 weeks is a good time to gather momentum and peak at the right time. And of course, Brandon can use the symbolism of the election happens on April 4th, which is the assassination date of Dr. King. He needs to infuse his campaign with a movement energy to give himself the best chance to win. If it's just a regular campaign, a grind out, where folks are just simply voting on self-interest or not voting because they don't see it in their immediate interest to participate, then I think that is the kind of campaign that Paul could win. So it's almost like the classic Democrat-Republican politics, where the Democrats benefit from a high voter turnout and high voter participation, and Republicans benefit from a low one.
And remember, you said 5 weeks, but it's really only 2 weeks because the polls open again 3 weeks before April 4th, I believe. The early voting opens 3 weeks before April 4th. So it's a 2-week election. Just imagine, these guys get 2 weeks to each pull it together and get people to know what they stand for.
The challenge is to maintain the momentum that they have right now. All of them, everybody that's in a runoff, the awards, and the 2 mayoral candidates, they should only be on the phone. They should have been on the phone last night and on the phone this morning, talking to donors and talking to the other people that ran in these races to secure endorsements. And you're going to see what the key to winning this election is going to be what they do for the rest of this week. How much they're pushing out and how much momentum they can't take. None of them should be sleeping in today.
Paul Vallis's only hope is to get Willie Wilson on board. Otherwise, and Willie Wilson's voters. Otherwise, Paul Vallis can't win.
well, he just might be able to do that. We don't know. We do not know.
I think the path to victory for Brandon Johnson is a lot clearer than the path to victory for Paul Vallis.
Well, oh boy, this is going to be interesting. I hear you. I think you're right. I just think this is going to be very, very, very interesting, and I think we're going to have to work very hard to get people out and vote and get people involved. I think we can do that, but we're going to have to do that, and you're going to need Jamal Green, Sophia King, State Representative Buckner. You're going to need Willie Wilson. You're going to need Chuy Garcia. Will the mayor be a factor at all?
Yeah, she got it'll end up with 16 or 18% of the vote. Somebody needs those voters also. The mayor will be a huge factor. She came in third.
Wow. What's next for her, do you believe? Anybody?
President Lowe. I think President Lowe going back and making a lot of money. I think that's probably what she has in our immediate future. She looked like she was prepared for this outcome. Obviously, I think she gave all she had, but she was a very successful attorney. She was the third in line for U.S. Attorney General during one of the cycles when the position was filled, I think, I might have been started. So, she's got a lot of connections and deep networks.
Yeah, I mean, and she's brilliant, and certainly we need her in public life. We really do. And so I hope this is. I can't wait to see how she will engage the public going forward, because she has much to offer everybody. So, does anyone else have? Is there anything that has been left unsaid today, gentlemen and lady? Okay, I guess not. But thank you so much for being with us today. And Hannah, down there in South Carolina, and Jarvis and Robert, sending you much love. Lorraine, that's right. All of you. That's right. Jewel says, vote Effie Rolfe. I love you, girl. Love you. Bobby Pope. Okay. Where is Bobby Pope? Bless his heart. I hope, you know what, I am going, just remind me tomorrow, and I will acknowledge Bobby Pope on the air. That is so sweet. You said he's a longtime listener, but he's never called, and he listens, you said, and he learns so much. And after the show, he recaps the show for his wife, Beth. Oh, I'm so grateful. I met so many people yesterday who listen to the show. I'm always surprised at the reach, and I'm so grateful. That we are performing a service, and I say we, everyone here, that we are performing a service for you, getting you information that that you need, and it is my profound honor to be in service to you. I love you, everybody. God bless you. I will see you tomorrow, God willing. Love you, Kitty. Love you, Kevin. Love you, Dwight. Love you, Pastor Hatch. See y'all, and love you too, Henry. God bless you.